Hi everyone, Stepan here. Today we are going to go over the Wade Gambit, an opening that's really interesting, really sharp, and something I'm looking forward to playing the next time someone plays f5 against me. So when white goes c4 with the English, that's a very flexible move, and it could be several different openings. Black has many setups they could play against it, but people who play the Dutch usually will play the Dutch whatever they face. So when they go f5, we are going to play the Wade Gambit g4. This is extremely sharp, extremely interesting, and if black doesn't know it, they could be in trouble very quickly. So what's the point? Well, the point of the Wade Gambit is to get rid of this pawn on f5. This pawn is relatively securing black's king side, and most importantly, it's controlling the e4 square. So if that pawn disappears, white can expand in the center, ideally with e4 and d4, and eventually recapture the pawn on g4 if it's taken, if black makes a mistake. So what are black's options? So this pawn, if it isn't taken, immediately gives an advantage to white. Why is that? Well, white can exchange and either weaken black's kingside completely or just gain space in the center later on with e4. So if you turn on the Lichess book, people usually do take the pawn the majority of the time, 55% of the time, and white scores 50%. Now the other moves that are played are knight f6, d6, e6, and d5. And against all of those, white has a much better score. People have also played f4, which is really bad. So let's go over the bad moves first, and let's see why this pawn should be taken. If you go knight f6, most people on Lichess with white have made a mistake of taking on f5. That's simply no good. Instead of that, and knight f6 makes a lot of sense. I mean, it just puts double pressure on the pawn. Instead of playing g takes f5, excuse me, white should go g5. And now the knight must move. If the knight goes to, I don't know, g8, then that makes no sense. So most people are going to play knight e4. An active move attacking the pawn. And again, don't make a mistake that most people on Lichess make. Do not play h4 defending that pawn. Play d3 defending that pawn and chasing the knight away. Once the knight goes back to d6, you can see that black has been moving the same piece many times, and white can simply go bishop to g2, and the development is very easy. We go knight c3, excuse me, knight f3, knight c3, we can go b3 or even b4 with bishop to b2. Whoa, I'm sorry, my mouse is going crazy. With bishop to b2, and all the squares in the center are under white's control. After knight f3 and the bishop coming to the long diagonal, we are going to be controlling e5 and d4, and the light squares are already under our control. So knight f6, no good. d6 defending the pawn is not much better. We can now simply take that pawn. And after bishop takes, we now go bishop g2. And what has happened is that white has simply traded off the g2 pawn for the f7 pawn. Any Dutch player will tell you that that's a favorable trade for white. I mean, look at this bishop. Immediately black has to react, either knight c6 or c6. I mean, none of these are good. And white's idea against the Dutch in many lines, because this pawn is gone, is of course going to be a kingside attack starting with queen h5 or knight h3, knight g5 or knight f3, knight g5. So playing d6 is no good. d5 is not much better. It's the same idea, trying to defend this pawn, but against d5 we don't have to react by snapping off the pawn on f5. We can actually put pressure on d5. If we can trade off the g2 pawn for the d7 pawn positionally, that's much better. So bishop g2. Honestly, I don't know what to suggest for black here. Most people on Lichess play either fg4 or dc4. None of these moves are good. The best move is c6, but it's not good either. So takes, and we can now go queen b3. if you go knight f6, I'm going to go g5, and I'm going to win the pawn on d5. So, I don't know, e6. Now just g takes f5. And white is better. So, when you play the Wade Gambit, there really is nothing better to do for black but to take that pawn. So let's start here. Now, there are alternatives to the best move for white, but there is only one move that gives white relative equality and excellent chances. Now, e4 is what people commonly play if they don't know the Wade Gambit. Now, if they don't know it, I don't know why they played it in the first place, but e4, even though it makes sense, attacking the pawn is a mistake, because black can now play e5. And if you do recapture the pawn on g4 with the queen, then black wins a bunch of tempi. Your queen ends up on g2, your diagonal is blocked, you have no initiative, black has excellent development, and just no good. So we are going to play in wing gambit style on the king side. We play h3. And this should be familiar to you from many openings. You give up one pawn, like from the Banco Gambit on the queen side, for example, with colors reversed. Black plays b5, white plays cb5, and then black plays a6. In this case, we go g4, and after fg4, we go h3. We are begging black to take another pawn. As opposed to the Banco, where actually taking on a6 is the best move, in the Wade Gambit, it's a big mistake. So, if gh3 is played, white is already better, and the advantage should be like 0.3 or 0.4 instead of minus 0.2 for black if black plays correctly. But more importantly, white has a huge initiative brewing, and you don't want to play bishop takes h3. That's just a big mistake. It may seem tempting, but it's a mistake. Instead, we go knight h3. And the idea is we want to move our e-pawn, play knight g5, and take on h7. If, and I'll show you the reason why we didn't recapture with the bishop, we also want to move the d-pawn and play bishop d3, looking at the g6 square, preventing h6. So we want to get onto the light squares and, well, beat black on the king side very, very quickly. And this is a sound opening. So black has a couple of choices. I mean, e5 is definitely the best move. You have to start developing and do something. Seems like the best move. So for example, knight c3, knight c6, e3, controlling the knight, controlling f4, preparing bishop d3 is the best idea. And also the queen can now come out to h5. So if we had a couple more moves, we'd be winning straight away. So black has to block that diagonal. Black played knight c6 in order to defend the pawn, to prevent queen h5 and queen e5, but now the h5 square should be defended. So knight f6. Okay, now we jump in. Knight g5. And there is one move for black, I think. d5. Black has to challenge the center straight away. If black makes a random move, white is already winning easily. So for example, bishop e7. We can just takes, and queen h5. And white wins. So this is a typical mistake a player with black could make. Another mistake is, let's say, queen e7. Although not losing, it's already pretty bad. Bishop d3. Now we are on the g6 square. If you allow us to play bishop g6, it's going to be game over. So black really cannot get rid of this knight. Bishop d3 also prevents e4, which is something black was looking forward to. For example, if h6, then bishop g6. And after king d8, knight f7, game over. So after knight g5, d5 is the best move and the only move. If in this position white takes on h7, let's say white takes with the rook, this is okay. But now, after queen h5 check, black isn't completely losing. After king d7, black actually does have a square, and we can go cd5. It's still 1.5, but it's not game over straight away. So after h3, if black takes this pawn, I think white wins almost on any level if white just knows the basic ideas. So what we're going to do now is we're going to test these ideas against Nocti. We are going to play Nocti in the position after g takes h3, which is, you know, a mistake. And we're also going to play Nocti after the best move for black, which is g3, not allowing white to develop the knight for free. Okay, so I've set up the two key positions, g takes h3 and g3. On Nocti, I've set Nocti to rook 4, which is something about my FIDE rating, and let's test them out. G takes h3 first. Okay, we take with the knight. Nocti is going to be giving me immediate feedback, and that's what I love about it. It's a human-like opponent. Okay. Makes sense. This is the best move. Let's continue with knight c3. Now against knight c6 we go e3. I have not imported this repertoire into Nocti, so it's not going to have info on what the best moves are. It's going to think on its own. Okay, we have to prevent knight d4, prepare bishop d3. Now, okay, knight f6 makes sense. Let's go knight g5, that's the best move. Now d5 should be played. Let's see if Nocti blunders. d6. Okay, now this is slightly less challenging. I think we can take on h7 here. So let's say rook h7, knight h7, knight h7, queen h5, king d7, queen h7. Yeah, this seems good to me. Wait, Nocti gives it as a mistake? I wonder why. Let's see. I don't know why this would be a mistake. Okay, interesting. Interesting. So let's say we take on f6, queen h5, there's bishop g6. Aha. Okay, I don't think we have anything better but to take. I could go knight g5. Okay, let's take. Our king is safe, that's good. And we have knight d5 coming. Pressure on c7 and the queen. Can black do any damage? Queen h4 doesn't do much. Queen g6 threatens bishop c2, but I always have queen f3. Okay, let's go knight d5. This seems okay. If you would like to check out Nocti, follow the link in the description, and if you go premium, use the code Hanging Pawns, which is going to give you a huge discount. And that way you will get to try out Nocti with all its features for next to nothing. What do we do? Queen b3 is interesting. It allows bishop d3. This is now becoming a normal position where I'm kind of afraid of this g-pawn. If queen b3, knight a5, queen b5 seems good, so let's go queen b3. No? Why not? Why is this a blunder? Okay, I mean, castle's queenside is normal. I don't see why queen b3 should be a big mistake. Okay, now I have to develop my pieces somehow. Or I need to start attacking. I like bishop g2. And then if e4, I may have d3. Or should I go d3 now? Let's go d3 now. Okay, I don't want to take there, but there's bishop h4 coming. Bishop h4 with pressure on f2. All right. So should I play e4 followed by bishop e3, but then knight d4? This isn't looking good. I may have to take that bishop. I'm afraid of bishop h4. Even though my knight's my best piece, I'm going to take. Yeah, I obviously Nocti likes it. I had to do it. Bishop h4 was coming. Now bishop d2. I'm not afraid of e4, and I'm playing bishop g2 next. Okay, preventing castling. Makes sense. Makes sense. Bishop g2, there is no queen h1. Bishop g2, queen h2. King e2. or sorry, bishop g2, queen h2, bishop c6, queen h1, king e2. There's bishop g4. Oh, I may lose this if I get careless. So I may have to play queen d1, but it also doesn't seem to work. I don't know. Let's actually go queen c2 and bishop c3. That's the only way I can see that defends f2 without giving away d4. No good? Preventing castling? Okay, I'm not too afraid of that. I'll go bishop c3 and bishop e2, and queen e2, and on queen h1 I have queen f1. Okay. Pressure, pressure. Now I don't have bishop g2. Nor do I have bishop e2. So maybe it's time to start attacking. I mean, how does black increase the pressure on f2? Maybe I can keep my king on e1. I can always defend the bishop. If queen h3 or queen h1, bishop h3, I have queen e2. So let's start. I mean, okay, Nocti likes b4. Let's misplace this knight. Let's play sharply. So now I'm thinking a4, a5, a6. If I go bishop g2, then queen h2. That seems scarier after a4, a5, a6. So let's go a4. Okay, a4 is good. Queen h1 wants to go bishop h3. So a5, bishop h3, queen e2. I think I'm holding on to everything. Wait, couldn't I just... If I could castle now, that would be great, but I cannot, so let's go. Oh, I blundered? Why? Ah, threatening knight e3. That's a nice move. Threatening knight e3 and knight g3. Oof. Okay, maybe I'm losing. Knight g3 takes, queen takes, king d2, rook f2 mate. That's no good. Huh, how do I defend? Okay, a5 may have been a blunder. Or it definitely was a blunder. How do I defend the g3 square? I don't see a way to defend. Okay, but on knight g3 I can go king d2. Okay, I'm playing a6. No? Oh no, I didn't defend e3. Oh, idiot. Okay, yeah, now I'm resigning. I forgot to defend e3. Okay, let's resign. Okay, so Nocti played well because it didn't take on h7 twice. Now let's test Nocti in the best line with g3. Okay, g3, I'm playing fg3. Let's see what Nocti does here. Okay, this is interesting. So Nocti allowed white to take on h7 in that line and then just played bishop f5. That was really interesting. Okay, what do we do here against e6? Let's prevent queen g5. I feel like that's a good idea. Because I don't want to have to defend g3 if you know, I can avoid it. Okay, now let's go d4. Normal move. Of course, if dc4, then e4. Okay, attacks the pawn. Bishop f4 is always correct. Yes, okay. So I learned the Wade Gambit well. Black should not take, because then we're playing against e5. Yeah, now you're going to see me talking about this in about a minute. This is a well-known mistake. The knight's coming to f5. That's worrisome, but we always have rook g1. So let's continue developing. Knight c3, knight f5, rook g1. Seems good. Seems good. Okay, they castle. So I don't want to go e3 because knight f5 targets e3. So I may have to go... Wait, I can actually go e3. And on knight f5... No, I need to cover both squares. Well, Do I go queen d3? Queen d3 makes sense. Also rook g1 makes sense. Let's go rook g1 first. No? A blunder? Oh, I gave the f4 pawn. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? I just blundered the f4 pawn. No! Ah. Okay, at least now we gain a tempo. So let's go queen d2 and castle queenside. Now at least knight f5 isn't scary. Okay, so rook f3 takes. Okay, castle's queenside. I mean, I still kind of like white's position. Okay, I don't have e3, obviously. Because I lose the knight. I also don't have knight e5 now. So what do I do? I need to develop my bishop. So I want to go h4, bishop h3. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, Nocti likes h4. I don't really care about dc. Oh, king h8, nice move. Okay, we have to develop. Okay. I mean, let's just double up the rooks. No, I blundered. Why? Why is this such a huge blunder? Okay, e4 is coming. Winter is coming. My bishop is attacked. I need to trade. And now just takes on d4 and I resign, I guess. Oh no. Okay, if I go d5 then rook d8. So I may as well take. But that seems very scary. Had to defend my rook. h6? Wow. What does h6 do? Prevents knight g5, knight e6. So it is a nice move. Yeah, I don't know what to do here. I see h5, knight h4, but I'm not controlling the h4 square, so that could be a problem. I don't really know. I'm getting outplayed. But yeah, I'm just going to resign this position. I feel like this is hopeless. Black just trades rooks. Okay, so I got outplayed in both positions. Maybe I shouldn't have taken on h7 with the knight in the first one. Let's go back to the video for free. Okay, so we saw what happened. g3 is obviously superior to g takes h3. So black's idea is to give the pawn back in order to dampen white's development, and white really has to take, otherwise gf2 happens. So f takes g3. Now black continues with e5. If black plays knight f6, that's already slightly suspicious. White can go d4 for free, so black really must play e5 to prevent d4. If d5 now, we can just keep ignoring that, knight f3, and continue with knight c3 and bishop f4. If bishop d6 ever comes attacking the pawn on g3, we always have bishop f4. And in fact, we are playing against e5, and our knight is covering the h4 square, so we aren't in trouble. So against fg3, black should play e5. Bishop to g2, and now this is the only weakness. Queen g5 is a problem, and this is how black should play, and this is the only line in which black has something slightly better than equality. White is forced to play g4, queen h4 check, and king f1. Our king is misplaced, and after bishop c5, black threatens mate, so we defend that. Black continues developing with d6, for example, knight c3. And even though our king is misplaced, this is roughly equal. The engine says 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. I would give black a slight edge because you know, after knight f6, castles kingside, the bishops are well placed. The only problem is the b7 square, so this is why white actually has equality, and the c7 pawn. Of course, knight d5 is coming, knight b5 is coming. So at some point, black really should play the move c6 to solidify. In fact, black should play it now. And then we start chasing the queen away with knight f3. White has something going for his position. I mean, the e4 square, the queen getting chased away. It's not all bad. The only bad thing is that the king is misplaced. So if you're looking for a sharp weapon against f5 in the English, this is something I really love. The Wade Gambit seems very strong. Check out Nocti by following the link in the description. And in the first comment below, when I learn these sharp opening lines, the first thing I do is I play them out against Nocti so that I can see what an actual human of my strength is likely to do in a game. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think and stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.